Welcome to the Bar Exam Toolbox podcast. Today, as part of our quick tips series, we are talking about how to use breathing techniques to get through test day anxiety and perform your best. Your Bar Exam Toolbox hosts are Alison Monahan and Lee Burgess, that's me. We're here to demystify the bar exam experience so you can study effectively, stay sane, and hopefully pass and move on with your life. We're the co-creators of the Law School Toolbox, the Bar Exam Toolbox, and the career-related website Career Dicta. Alison also runs the Girls Guide to Law School. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review on your favorite listening app and check out our sister podcast, the Law School Toolbox podcast. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach us via the contact form on barexamtoolbox.com, and we'd love to hear from you. And with that, let's get started. Have you ever had the experience during an exam, whether it be a law school final or even the bar exam, if you've taken it before, where your mind just goes blank for a second? I know I have. When 100% of your grade or your ability to get your license to practice law hangs in the balance, exams can be pretty high stakes. And this can create a lot of anxiety. The problem is, you know how calmly reasoning your way through analysis and using facts in an organized way is super important on any exam, including the bar. Well, that's exactly what goes right out the window when you start sinking into a downward spiral of anxiety. Over the years, I've read a lot of exams from students who tell me their nerves got the better of them during test day, law school exams, and lots of essays from the bar exam. And you know what these essay answers have in common? They're not tightly organized and precisely laid out. They tend to be more stream of consciousness in their prose. They're frequently overly verbose, and very often the student runs out of time in the end. We've talked about it all before, but there are some things that are immediate red flags to graders. Not sticking to an IRAC type structure, not managing your time well, and not using the key facts. It is too easy to slip into all of these if you let anxiety take the wheel on test day. And it's easy to see why this can happen, right? When we feel anxious, our bodies shift into a fight or flight sort of response. Or sometimes we just freeze. The last thing we feel capable of doing is methodically planning out an essay on scratch paper. No, it's just the opposite. We jump headlong into typing our answer because the time pressure feels insurmountable and panic sets in. I am telling you right now, this is a recipe for disaster. So, what should you do instead? How can you get back to the test-taking strategies you've been practicing? Well, for starters, you need to calm down. And the best way to do that quickly is through getting your breathing in check. Now take a minute right now. What's going on with your breathing? Are you breathing deeply or taking tiny little sips of air? When left to our own devices, while sitting there checking our email or studying or even doing a practice exam, a lot of us take really shallow breaths without even realizing it. You can imagine how adding some anxiety in the form of an exam might push you into barely breathing at all, which of course makes the anxiety even worse. So how do you avoid this? Well, the military calls it tactical breathing, and it's what some elite forces use while training to be snipers, which is a job you definitely need to be calm to undertake. Or you might recognize it from a yoga class if you've ever taken one. It's all the same exact thing. In essence, you want to follow this general format. Ready? Breathe in while counting slowly to 4. Hold your breath for 4 counts. Exhale for a count of 4. And then hold the empty breath for a count of 4. Now, this is not exactly rocket science, but it forces your body into a physiological response to fight the stress you're feeling. You slow down your heart, you get more oxygen to your brain, and your mind stops racing so much. Frenzied nervous energy cannot coexist with deliberation and precision, which is just what you need on test day. So all of these physiological responses are good for your exam writing. I had a bar student many years ago who struggled with a lot of test-taking anxiety, and she had this mantra she would say to herself: Panic and clarity cannot coexist. I am choosing to be calm. Now, this is loosely based on a little booklet called Daily Reflections for Bar Exam Study, which we've talked about on our blog before. You can check it out if you want to find a mantra or encouraging quotes as you study for the bar. Now, does it feel weird to talk to yourself? Sure. Does it work? Maybe. Everyone is different, but give it a try. Do the breathing. Feel free to come up with a phrase you can use along with it to get yourself into a calmer state of mind. The first time you try tactical breathing, you might feel like it takes forever. I usually recommend that students time themselves with a stopwatch just to show themselves that's not true. You could probably get through about 4 sets of these 4-count breath routines in under a minute. During an exam where every minute counts, it can seem like there's no time to slow down. It can seem counterintuitive. Why spend time on something that isn't directly related to the answer you're writing? But I would argue that calming down is related in a big way, and slowing down is your best chance of success. Spending 1 minute calming yourself down is going to go a long way towards a high-quality essay answer because stream of consciousness answers never get a lot of points. In the exam room, another problem can be the cyclical nature of anxiety in this situation. See if this sounds familiar. You open the exam packet and read the first few lines. The fact pattern seems tough. You start getting nervous and doubting your abilities. And that makes it harder to read further into the fact pattern. You're thinking so much about not doing well that you can't plan out your answer. You feel rushed, so you jump into writing without a plan. Once you start writing, you realize you don't know what you're going to say because the fact pattern never actually made sense since you were so nervous while reading. So you go back to the top of the page and you try again, and the whole circle starts over again. Now, you can imagine how this would play out on the multiple choice too. It's too easy to fill in the wrong bubble and throw off your whole answer sheet or fall for the wrong answer choice if you're too anxious to think straight. For this reason, I tell students to close their eyes while doing their tactical breathing. It might seem silly or feel weird when you're in an exam surrounded by other test takers, but even assuming you sign on to the idea that you need to use tactical breathing, the temptation to try and read the questions while doing the breathing is too high. We want to eke out all the information we can in the short amount of time that we have. But measured breathing is not going to happen if you are frantically trying to read a mile a minute at the same time. So stop. Literally close your eyes and do 4 sets of 4. Come back to the page with fresh eyes and a calm mind and see what you can do. Breathing for anxiety is not difficult, but it's a skill that can be tough to access in the moment when you really need it. Sure, you can tell yourself, when I start getting nervous, I need to breathe slowly. Great. But that's actually easier said than done. What makes it work is if you practice in the off moments when you don't actually need it. So try 4 sets of 4 breaths while you're making breakfast. Do it while you're watching TV or checking the news. Try it while driving or taking the train. But if you're driving, don't close your eyes. The more you can make it a habit, the easier it will be to pull up and use when you feel the nerves coming on before test day or during the exam itself. If you can mentally tell yourself during the exam, hey, this breathing thing is something I've already done 100 times. It doesn't feel weird, and I know it doesn't take as long as it seems. Then you will probably feel more comfortable doing it during test day. Make tactical breathing your go-to automatic response that kicks in anytime you start feeling anxious. The next tip is more tangentially related to breathing, but it does tie in, and I've noticed that it goes a long way to helping with anxiety generally. Set up a calming morning routine, and while you're at it, set up a calming evening routine too. Now, why does this make a difference? Well, there's a whole vicious cycle scenario again. Picture this. You study up until bedtime. You climb into bed and scroll through your phone for a while. Your brain never gets much of a chance to totally turn off. Once it's lights out, your mind floods with thoughts about the upcoming test and any mistakes you made during practice that day. You start thinking of worst case scenarios and all the rules you still don't have memorized, and that makes it hard to fall asleep. So you stay awake worrying, and then you wake up exhausted because you didn't sleep enough, and the next morning is less productive, and you're in a worse mood because you're groggy, and so on. So, what can you do instead? Well, as I said, work the breathing into your daily routine whenever you can so it starts becoming a habit. Calming down and giving your brain a little more oxygen while studying is always going to be a plus. And in the morning, eat a healthy breakfast and plan some kind of physical activity to get you moving. While studying, take short breaks throughout the day to fight physical and mental exhaustion. Maybe do some stretching here and there. Make sure you're getting enough water. Take full mental breaks for meals. What I mean here is don't bring your outlines to the table. Let your brain rest. And when it comes time to wind down for the night, cut off from studying at least an hour before bed. Any feelings of anxiety can then surface and be dealt with before you actually expect yourself to fall asleep. Do some more breathing. Try listening to an audiobook, white noise, music, or a podcast that helps you drift off instead of just mentally ruminating in anxious circles about test day. Get more sleep and wake up feeling refreshed and ready to have a productive day. You might be surprised how allowing some mental breaks and trying to stay healthy while also working in calm down breathing tactics can make you feel a lot less anxious on test day. And if the nerves do hit when you're in the exam room, this tactical breathing is a great strategy to have already. And I didn't mention it before, but it's worth noting that anxiety can sometimes be a medical condition and a problem that we aren't really equipped to handle alone. If you think your nervousness about the bar exam or any exam is veering towards becoming debilitating, get it checked out early and talk to your doctor or therapist who can help you out in your particular situation. And with that, we are out of time. If you enjoyed this episode of the Bar Exam Toolbox podcast, please take a second to leave a review and rating on your favorite listening app. We would really appreciate it, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Alison at lee@barexamtoolbox.com or Alison@barexamtoolbox.com, or you can always contact us via our website contact form on barexamtoolbox.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon.